Good morning, afternoon, evening, from wherever you are listening. Welcome back to the Breakevens podcast. My name is Corey, and as always, with me is Jack.
Hello.
Round 14 is over, Jack, and that means the bye rounds have passed finally. Thank God for that. But they have left us in a bit of a tough spot with a few injuries to some key players, and the Collingwood Football Club has blown up, which is lovely to see.
Their annual stuff up has happened.
Yeah. So, as always, thank you all again for your support on Twitter. Heaps of people on there. It's great. And for those who support us on Apple Podcasts and on YouTube, we really appreciate it. You can find us on Twitter at Breakevens Pod and Apple Podcasts and YouTube. Just search the Breakevens and you'll see us there. All right. In today's podcast, as we said at the end of last pod, it's going to be structured a little bit differently. We've still got your hot and colds, don't worry. We've still got how our personal teams went, the VCC options. The only things that are missing are the break evens themselves. We figured going out of the buys, rookies aren't really relevant anymore, so the break evens are gone. And what we're going to do is have a few discussion points at the end of the podcast to chat about each week. So see that at the end. As always, we'll start off with how your team went this week, Jack. So what was the news?
A lot of people played like shit. I scored 1864, which made me jump 3K in ranks, which is good after the 12-player round 2 weeks ago. But we had Jaden Short with an 84, Houston a 76, Tom Stewart a 95, which he was lucky to get that. Kelly a 65, Cripps a 79, Witts a 68. Butters looked like he was going to score 200 and got injured at the start of the second quarter with a 68.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure his score was. Law had an 88. It really wasn't great.
Yeah. But I guess the good thing about those is most of those people are highly owned. So it's not like you've gone for a pod and it's failed. It's been mostly highly owned players. So that's, I guess, good.
And I think it's the first time this year my VCNC flopped. Can't remember who I had. Oh, I had Cripps Vice. He scored 79. Yep. And then I had the captain on Took who just got to 100.
Yeah, not
that
great.
Wasn't great.
What are you looking to do this week if you're doing anything?
I've done my final boost.
Oy.
Done 3 trades. And I've done a bit of fuckery, as I like to call it. No. With English having his concussion, I needed someone to go there. So, with Butters being injured, apparently it's 1 to 2 weeks, which isn't bad, but I jumped off him and I brought in Darcy Cameron.
Yep.
And then I can just sub him into the ruck and have English on my forward bench for a week or 2.
Yep.
I have then downgraded Greg Clark to D'Ambrosio.
Yep.
And I did that because my massive stuff up at the start of the year by putting Mitchell Cox from Brisbane in my defence on the bench, thinking he was a chance to play, has come in well because he was a mid defender. So I was able to do the switcheroo there.
Yep.
And then I was able to trade Paddy McCartan up to Jack Crisp.
Yep.
I was 1K off Doherty. That's why I don't have Doherty and I've got Crisp. I was looking at a few cheeky pod choices, but I decided on Crisp.
Yep. And that means you're full primo now. Yep.
Yes, obviously when English is back from injury.
Yep. How many trades you got left for the rest of the season then?
I've got 8, so I'm looking pretty good. I think at least.
Yep, awesome. All right, so we'll move on to my team. I scored at 1939, so a bit more than Jack, which saw me jump 5,145 ranks, and now I'm ranked 17,655th, which is good. I'm starting to pick up some steam, which I'm happy with. I was pretty happy with how my side went. Unfortunately, I chose the wrong Bulldog for captain. I went off Dunkley, averaging 130 odd. Did the job on 110 or 115 or something like that. So it wasn't too bad. It was better than Took. But obviously, McRae got 155. So shouldn't stop down to that guy. Apart from that decision, Cripps and Wits were the only ones that really went low, and of course short, but everyone's got him. And unfortunately for me, Greg Clark was the Medi sub. So he scored 44, which wasn't too bad, but if he plays a full game, that could have been a 75 plus sort of ordeal. Trades this week. Thanks to Jack's genius. I have to give you credit here because I was going to do some weird trades. I've also jumped on the Darcy Cameron trade. So this week I'm going Paul Curtis to Judson Clark. Seeing that he's played his 2 games, looks like he's going to keep his spot. And I've got Zach Butters to Darcy Cameron, which means similar to Jack, English will be on my forward bench, and Judson Clark will play on field for now, which isn't ideal, but at this part of the season, you can't be having donuts. So,
and you don't want to keep trading Ruckman, especially with how Ruckman have been.
Yeah. So that leaves me with 6 trades. I've got 129k in the bank at the moment. So I still need to get Greg Clark up. But I've got a few trades to do next week. So maybe the week after, Greg Clark will be up to Sam Walsh, who I'm looking at. So, but that's that. VC and C for this week. There's a lot to get through, so I'll quickly go through them. Starting off on the Thursday night, Clary Oliver averages 124 versus the Lions, which is good. We don't obviously know exactly how they're going to match up, but Clary 124, and the guy he'll be lighting up against, Lucky Neal, also averages 124 against Melbourne. So I think most people are going to go with VC out of that game. Next, we'll go Rory Laird versus the Roos. Averages 115. They play the first game on Sunday, so it will be a captain option. Obviously, the Roos suck, so that 115 could easily be a 130 plus. Also on the Sunday, the very last game of the round, Took averages 115 against Port. Will someone go to him? Took hasn't had the best season, especially compared to last season. It's been a bit down, but he still has that ability to go big. So we'll see what happens there. On the Friday night, McRae averages 121 versus the Hawks. He's my captain at the moment, so I'm looking to do VC and C and be done by Friday night. But that could all change. Cripps, the first game on Saturday, play Freo, that averages 112. 112 isn't great, but if you think the last few years he's been injured, that could.
And how good and close a contest Carlton Freo have been in the last few years as well.
Yep. So he could obviously go big there. The other captain option for me this week, who I might change, is in the same game that Friday night. Bond averages 124 versus the Hawks. Just depends on what role he plays, and do I want to back in McRae over Bond? But yeah, there's definitely no problem going Bond there. 124 is good. The Carlton Freo game, Sammy Walsh, 122 versus Freo. I probably prefer him captain over Cripps, just because his potential to go massive is there, but also Walsh has probably a lower floor than Cripps, so could be a miss. As we go to our roughies, I put Tom Short here against Richmond, average 112 in the last three. They play the Twilight game Saturday. So if you're not going to VC those first 2 days, which I don't know why you probably wouldn't, but Stewart wouldn't be a bad option for a VC. The Friday night, there's 2 games Friday night for some reason, which is bloody stupid. But Petrarca against the Lions. Petrarca averages 118 against them. So yes, he hasn't been great this year, but we could see him go big.
The Tracker's on the Thursday night.
Is he?
Yeah, Essendon Eagles is the other Friday night game.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to change. Sorry, that's on the Thursday night. Libba, 130 versus the Hawks on the Friday night. So another one, most people won't have Libba at all, and most of them won't be game enough to put a VC on him. So you could get a really big leap on the competition there. That Friday night, as you just said, Jack, Essendon versus the Eagles. I've put Merritt, who averages 116 against the Eagles. And also the Eagles suck this year. So Merritt hasn't been great, but he's got the average there. Seems sort of like to play against him, so it could be there. That same game, if he plays, Darcy Parish doesn't average well against the Eagles usually, but as I said, they suck. So Parish could go there. I'd probably go Merritt over Parish, but who knows if he's played or not. And the last one, Jack, you'll like this, the Sunday game, Adelaide versus the Roos. I've put Benjamin Keys. Similar to Parish, doesn't usually score well against the Roos, but it's the Roos. So, especially after, I think, a 68 last week, he could be looking to bounce back. So, those are the VC and Cs. At the moment, I've got Clary into McRae, but that could be Clary into Bond, potentially.
I'm going McRae into Laird.
McRae into Laird, nice. Yep. I can't hate on that. So we'll move to the Breakevens team, which scored the highest out of the three of us, Jack. 2024 by the Breakevens. That was a round rank of 648th, and we moved up 8,324 ranks, and we're now ranked 18,439th. As you probably tell, it was a great week for the Breakevens. We chose the right dog in McRae as captain, and just solid scores across the board, really. This week, we're only doing the one trade, and that's Butters, Darcy Cameron, which means we're doing the whole English on the bench thing. And this means we are now full primo when English comes back, and we're going to include Cameron in as primo at the moment. The only bad thing is we only have 3 trades left, so we're going to have to tread carefully. Hopefully there isn't too many injuries, because we'll probably have to look into getting Darcy Cameron up to someone at some stage. Just before we move into hot and colds, we've got 2 confirmed debutants this week. The first one was James Blank, 102k defender from the Hawks. He's going to debut. And for the Lions, James Tunstall, 117k mid, will debut for Brisbane this week. So just thought I'd let you guys know now before I forget. So we'll move into the games last week, Jack, and you had the first one, which was Richmond versus Carlton.
Yes, and it was the best game of the round. For no bias reason at all. Surprisingly, Richmond won by 15. Did not expect it. Was a great game. Richmond's third quarter woes came back again and scared the living shit out of me again. But getting straight into the hots, Nick Vloshun, 120. Nathan Broad, 109. Denank, 107. Liam Baker, 100. Lynch, 99. I thought he was a bit stiff to not get that 100. And Shy Bolton, a 94. I think he's been scoring 60s and 50s the last 4 or 5 weeks, so it was a big game by him.
Yep.
Going over to Carlton, Doherty, 128. Sard, 122. Walsh, 109. Hewitt, 103. Lewis Young got a 97, and Boyd got a 93.
Oi.
Getting into the colds for Richmond, Bolter, Tarrant, and Cochin all got injured. Tarrant is a chance to play this week. Bolter's 1 to 2, I'm hearing.
Yep.
And Cochin, after this week, he'll be reassessed to see how long he's out for. Yep. And the last cold for Richmond, Jaden Short, which I think was pretty obvious.
Yep.
Going into Carlton, Sam Durden and Jack Martin both got injured. I think Durden's a couple of months out. I'm not sure about Martin.
Yep.
And Cripps with a 79.
Yep.
Which I think is another obvious one.
Yeah. Awesome. So these hot and colds will be a lot quicker, just because there's no break-evens. So that's all we had for that game, I believe, yes?
Yes.
Awesome. So I had the Saints versus the Bombers, and I'm going to say the Bombers won in an upset by 35. I don't think anyone expected them to win, let alone by almost 6 goals. So for the Saints, the Hots, we've got Jade Gresham, 125, Jack Sinclair, 105, and Sebastian Ross with a big ton.
He's had a good season, Ross.
Yes, since he's come back, he has, yeah. For the Bombers, Mason Redmond, 144. And funny enough, he averages 118 over the last 3. Could be a smoky pick in defense. But if you don't have any of the big guys, I'd probably prefer to go there just for consistency. Nick Hine, 115. 2 meter Peter, 115 as well. Jai Caldwell, 114. This bloke, Archie Perkins, what a player he's going to be, 109. And Dylan Shell, 103. As we move to the Colds for the Saints, Brad Crouch only an 80, so those who jumped on him for those big scores, let's just hope this was a one-off. And Rowan Marshall seems to be sticking it up with a 55. And for the Bombers, it's a bit stiff, but we want this guy to do more. Zach Merritt with a 91, and Jordan Ridley with a 64. As Jack, you had Port of the Swans.
I did, and in what I would call was an upset, Port bet Sydney.
I tipped it.
And by 23. Getting into the Hots, it seems like we're saying this guy's name every week. Marshall, 124. I don't know what happened, but he's become a gun this season, especially for Port fans out there. Ollie Wines and Jeremy Finlayson, both 122. Finlayson's another one, Supercoach-wise, that put up a few big scores. Riley Bonner with 118. Carl Amon and Connor Rosie, 103. Charlie Dixon, 102. Ryan Burton, 101. Getting into Sydney, Callum Mills, 138. Luke Parker, 135. And Sam Reid, 107. Getting into the Colds, I wanted to put him hot, but Zach Butters, 68 from 1 quarter of football. I will put him as a hot, but he's injured, like I said, looks like 1 to 2 weeks with a medial strain, which is some good signs for people who have Butters and want to hold him. Teagle did his shoulder trying to be a big boy, and he is gone. Bump. That was a fantastic bump, but he hurt himself more than he hurt the bloody Sydney player. Dan Houston with a 76, which I spoke about earlier. Peter Latham suspended for joining the UFC. And I put him in here. Paddy McCartan, he's one that I didn't mention, but he's got a 59 and he was on my field last week, which also didn't help to my score and the people who had him.
Yep. Sweet. I had the next game, which was the Bye versus Geelong, but it turns out the Bye fought back. By the Bye, I'm talking about West Coast. Geelong were
robbed.
Geelong won by 3 goals, which was a surprise. For the Eagles, Jack Redden, 124, decided to show up. Tom Barras, 114. Old Man Calves, Hearn, 109. And Jake Waterman, 95, which I thought was out of the blue. For the Cats, Zach Tui, 118. Cam Guthrie, 115. Averaging 114 in his last 3. Could be another one of those cheapy smokies. Tom Atkins, 103. And the Blitz, Mark Blitzarves, 101. As we move to the Colds, for the Eagles, Luke Shuey, 73. I've put Greg Clark there, 44, but he was the sub. Jeremy McGovern got injured on 37. It says ribs and to be confirmed, so we don't know how long on that. And the Colds for Geelong, this is very stiff, but Tom Stewart only a 95. We expect a ton.
He had 4 touches to half time and he still got 95, which just shows how much of a good super coach player he is. But that 4 touches in the first half really stuffed him over.
Yep. And that's it for that game. So, Jack, you had the Giants versus the Doggies.
Yep, and in terms of Supercoach, it's probably the best Supercoach game of the round, to be honest. Getting into the hots, Toby Green, 156. He's woken up, kicked 7 goals too? Stephen Cornelio, 113. The other Green, Tom, 102. Lockie Whitfield, 101. And Harry Himmelberg, I put a 95, has continued his hot form.
Yep.
Going over to the Doggies, Jack McRae, 155. The Bond, 120. Dunkley, 114. Tim English, 110. And delayed concussion, which is not great.
It looks like 2 weeks.
Yeah, 1 to 2 weeks. Caleb Daniel, 105. Helmet boy. Your boy, the astronaut, Aaron Norton, 104. Libba, 102. And Cody Waitman, 100 plus a dislocated elbow. Apparently, he's a chance to play.
Yeah.
But he did dislocate his elbow, so I thought I'd bring it up. In the Colds, The Undertaker, Braden Pruce, with an ankle injury. He hurt his ankle. I'm not sure if you saw it. He hurt his ankle. He went down into the rooms after spending about 20, 30 minutes out in the rooms. He came out, opened the doors like he was a big boy about to go and dominate the game. He goes, runs on the field, turns around and goes, "Nah, I'm done." My king. Respect. And Pete Ling also got injured. I'm not quite sure what that was. And Josh Kelly with a 65. You mentioned he doesn't play well against the Bulldogs, and he didn't.
Yeah.
And for the Bulldogs, Adam Treloar, 88. Again, not great. He seems to get the touches and have the impact to have big scores, but he fucks it. That's one thing I've noticed with Treloar this season. Bailey Dale, an 87, and Taylor Duray trying to be Superman, injured himself 8 weeks with, I think it's a PCL, some type of knee, and gave away a goal for his efforts. Kamikaze himself to end his own season. You love to see it. And that's all I had on that game.
Awesome. So the last game of the round was the Suns versus the Crows, and the Suns won by 43 points. The Hots for the Suns, Rao, 123. Ben Ainsworth, 104. Isaac Rankin, 101. Seems to be hitting some form at the moment. As Jack said, his captain, Tuk scored a flat 100. For the Crows, Jordan Dawes, 140. Rory Laird 114, Sam Berry 105, and I've put Jimmy Rowe with a 92.
Jimmy!
And your boy Saligo with an 88.
He had a very good game.
As we move to the colds for the Suns, I've put Jared Witts with a 68. And unfortunately, Will Powell, 35. I've put here ankle facing wrong direction and season. So it was a dislocation and
A break.
And a break, and I think some damage to some ligaments there. Didn't look good, but ankle was facing the wrong direction. Can confirm. Connor Buderick scored 53. Did a hammy, but he's a test for this week. As we move over to Adelaide, Ben Keys.
Did you mention Jeffrey?
No, he's come out with an injury as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's I think 4 weeks, 4 plus.
Yeah.
Let me just find it. Where's the Gold Coast under the Gold Coast guy? Oh, it's got a to be confirmed, but I saw something that he could be out 4 weeks. It's a knee injury and it says to be confirmed.
Yeah, I did see that earlier. So yeah, as I said, Keys 68, looking to bounce back this week. Rory Thilthorpe 52. It was an ankle injury, but he's a test for this week. And that's all the games for this week. So now on to our discussion topics. I'll just quickly read through what they are and what order they'll be in. So what to do with Zach Butters. Some downgrade targets. I guess so. Rookies that have played 2 games or could get some games. What are our ruck options looking like? And our second half smokies. All right. So, Jack, do you want to go first with what to do with Butters, or do you want me to?
I'm happy to go first. I've put a couple of options.
Yep.
With what we could do. The first one is
just quickly. Do you personally think he's a hold, or does he have to be traded?
Well, I traded him, so that's where my stance is.
Yep.
I'd understand if you hold, because especially the last few weeks he's been on fire. But it's also I understand you if you trade.
Yeah.
It's also based on your team with certain circumstances, which I'll get into. With the first option is what I have done, and that is trade in Darcy Cameron, as I have English as a ruckman who is out for the next 1 to 2 weeks.
Yep.
Someone who's scoring very nicely and can fill in that English spot.
Yep.
He's been amazing since Grundy's gone out injured, and he could fit in the F6 spot nicely. I've also put you could also go Todd Goldstein or Luke Jackson. They both work as well, and they're, I guess, more sneaky picks.
Yep.
If you have the cash, you can upgrade him to a top primo that you don't have people like the Bont, Parker, Dunkley, Libber, Heaney, or a Will Brodie.
Yep.
I've put you could go a risky option in Harry Himmelberg, who over the last 3-4 weeks has gone back to defense and he's been scoring very well. And he looks like he's going to keep that position.
Yep.
But also with that as another risky option, you could hold him as it looks like it's a 1 to 2 week injury.
Yep, nice. Yeah. I personally think this Butters situation is a tough one, as he had the same injury last year. It was just on the other knee. And last year he only missed a week. So do we hold him? Personally, I think he's a trade, because for those coaches like myself who have been stuck with those early shit scores after shit score after shit score, and then there was a few good weeks there, and he seems to be hitting his strides the last few weeks. But it's been a painful ride, and now we have a reason to jump ship. Similar to the start of the season with Lockie Whitfield, those that kept, and then he got injured. It's like, awesome, I have a reason to jump off now. I can use the trade now. So that's what I have done as well. Possible trade targets. I've got 4 here. Jack named 2 of them. The first one being Luke Jackson. With Gord being listed for 2 to 4 weeks, that means Jackson will have sole ruck duties. They've brought in Sam Wiedemann, which means he'll pinch hit here and there. But for the most part, Luke Jackson will be the main man, which means we may get a glimpse into the future and possibly see what he can average over the next few weeks and what he will be able to do when Gord takes a step back. So definitely an option there. The other one that Jack mentioned, Harry Himmelberg, who's had a role change as of late. He's been the free man in defense, and he's actually been controlling the ball in the middle of the field. So he pushes up, takes that mark in the center, and then he distributes left, right, or forward, and then they go into their attack. He averages 136 over the last 3 weeks, and that's with scores of 126, 187, and a 95. He's hard to pass up, but Mark McVeigh has come out today and said we still see him as a forward, and if that's the role he has to play, that's the role he will play. So that's not great. Phil Davis possibly coming back, but if he keeps that half-back role, I'd definitely jump on him there. The next one, Tim Taranto. We've all seen what this kid can do. He's coming off an injury, and he played last week in the reserves. We could see him come back into the lineup this week, and if he actually hits targets, he has the potential to score some big points. But with the new coach, Mark McVeigh, and Cogs playing strictly midfield, where does Taranto fit in? Does he play the forward line and then goes into the midfield, or does he play midfield and then goes forward? Personally, I think it's forward then mid, but we've seen at the start of the season he's scored pretty consistently as a forward anyway, so look out for him. And the last one, I've put Connor Rozee. With Butters going down, he could be the beneficiary. We've seen in his short career that he can score well when he has that mid role and that opportunity. That wasn't last season or the season before. He started off averaging about 130, played that midfield.
I think last season.
Then he got injured. Port have a few easier games coming up as well, but that's before it does get tough. So we could see a rise in points the next couple of weeks. So out of those options, Jackson, Hillberg, Taranto, Rozee, who would I want you to go 1 to 4, 1 being who you'd prefer to get in out of the 4, 4 being one you want to stay away from.
You want me to?
Yep, rate it.
So it's Jackson, Taranto, Rozee, and Himmelberg.
Yep.
I'd go Himmelberg 1.
Yep.
Jackson 2, Rozee 3, Taranto 4.
Yep. I'd basically have the same, except I'd swap Rozee with Jackson, I reckon. All right, and that's it for what to do with Zachary Butters. All right, so we'll move down to the downgrade targets. So this is just some rookies that have played 2 games, or those who could get a chance. So Jack, who have you got for some downgrade targets?
First one, you mentioned at the start, Juddy Clark.
Yep.
He's played 2 games for the Tigers. He's settled in well. He's had scores of 65 and 45, which are pretty good. The 45, you could say it's a bit upsetting, but he was on a Carlton backline, which is no easy point. Like you won't get many easy points off their defense.
Yep.
Second one, Cleary from the Doggies. He's played 2 games early in the season. He's played very well for him, and he got dropped because Duray was back from injury, and Duray's gone back and injured himself again, which I'm very happy about because it looks for me, I'd say he's the clear number one person to go back into the team. And I'm pretty sure he had a pretty good break even after his 2 games as well.
Yep.
I've put D'Ambrosio. He's played the 1 game for Essendon last week. Looked very composed and good on the ball. Can't see him getting dropped from Essendon this week, or at least the next few weeks with how he's played, unless an injury happens.
Yeah, Rutten basically came out and said that he's basically playing. So
Yeah. And the last one I have is for some reason I keep calling him Pedler, but it's Parnell. He's played 2 for Adelaide. Played the last 2, I should say. In the first game, he I'm not sure if he was subbed or he was just kept out after a bad corky.
Yep, it was
and
Corky.
yeah, and then this week just gone by, he played the full game and had a great score of 70. So he looks like a decent defensive option at 102k. And his name is not Pedler.
Yep. So I had those 3, and I had a few more, but those 4, sorry, but I'll go through them all anyway. So the first one is Srinatika. If he plays, has a break even of -72. He's 102k basement price ruckman. If he plays, he's projected to go up 61k. But if he does play, how long will he stay in the side for? That's the big thing. I think he did play last weekend in the reserves, so we'll see. Luke Cleary, as Jack said, 117k defender. Dure going down, which, as Jack said, the guy who he was dropped for, could come in and play a handy role. -67 break even and projected to go up 60k. Paddy Parnell, 123k defender. You said 102k, Jack. It's 123. He's shown signs of being a good young player. Break even of -38, which isn't bad. If he holds his spot, he's projected to go up 42k, but his job security is a little bit scary, I think. Judson Clark, 117k mid forward. He burst onto the scene in his first game, a little bit quieter in his second, but shows all the signs of keeping his spot. -39 break even, projected to go up 41k. Also has that DPP, which could be very handy for those that don't have him. So if there's a 1 to 2 week injury in that midfield and you've got him in the forward line, you could do a quickie there, which is very handy for the end of the season. Massimo D'Ambrosio, 102k defender. As Jack said, played his first game, scored a 51. Not bad by the young guy. Looked like a handy player. Basement price, which is tempting. But how is his job security? Yes, he's playing this week. But after that, he's probably one of the first dropped, unless he does bits this week. Now, these next 3 haven't actually played a game, but they're very close. So first is Elijah Hollands, 123k mid forward. Only played reserves this season, but he's played some very good football. And he's been named emergency in the last few weeks. It could be a chance to get a game real soon, but it's always trying to predict a debut. So if you go for him, he could play, which would be great. But if he doesn't play, then you've just got a donut there. 123k, it's not great. Someone who is a big chance to play this week, Dante Vicentini, 117k forward ruckman. Jack, I saw your face then. He plays for Port Adelaide. He's yet to play a game, but with Tinkle Little Star going down, Porter back at square one with no ruckman inside. Higley did speak about him and how he likes how this kid plays. Is he a chance? Let's wait and see. And the last one, Charlie Dean, 102k defender, someone who was on everyone's preseason list, copped an injury and is finally returning to VFL this week. With Roughhead retiring, if Dean goes well, he could get a debut. And let's be honest, we prefer him over Imagine any day of the week. So those are our
Oh, I
downgrade
prefer him
targets.
over a fair few Collingwood defenders at the moment.
Yep. All right, Jack, we'll move to our ruck options with all the injuries. So what have you got for us?
So, like I said with the Butter situation, the first thing to do, like the first option is a DPP with a Cameron Goldie Jackson.
Yep.
I won't go too much into that as I already have.
Yep.
But actual ruck options to look at to get if you don't have an English and you don't have that problem and you just need a ruckman. I got the first one, Toby Nankervis. He's currently the third ranked ruckman. He's averaging 99.1 with a 3-round average of 108.7. He's looked the best he's looked at Richmond. And that's mainly because he's consistently getting on the field at the moment. Knock on wood. Especially with how Ruckstart is here, I'm surprised he's one that survived so far. But he's playing very well. My next one might be a shock, but I've gone with Mark Blitzars. He's been super consistent with Geelong. He's got an average of 98.2 and a 3-round average of 100. He seems to like float off half back and go into the ruck. So you're getting intercept marks down there and you're also getting ruck tapped, which is nice. But my last and I'd say, favorite or most go-to option out of him is Riley O'Brien. He's averaging 102 and he's got a 3-round average of 116.7 with a 100 and what was it, 85, 186 or
75.
something like that.
175, yeah.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, like I said, I think he's the best option. He's been on fire as late. His tap points have been growing massively the last few weeks since he come back from being dropped. Especially with how well the Adelaide midfield has been going.
Yep.
It's obviously helping those tap points, but he's also been doing a lot around the ground as well.
Yep. Yep, awesome. So I had 3 of those, but I'll just say we all know the carnage which has been the ruck line this year. The Supercoach gods have gone full Oprah Winfrey on the rucks. You get an injury, everyone gets an injury. But who do we replace the likes of Bruce and English going down this week? So as Jack said, Nag the Tank averages 99 at the moment and a 5-round average of 113. With a few softer draws in the next few weeks, at 566k could be a great option there. I've got him in draft and he's doing bits for me, so I'm happy with that. Also, someone that Jack said, Mark Blitzarves averages 98.2, a 5-round average of 101. His new rock roll has suited him. He's got Nag this week, but after that, he's got a few softer draws. Especially if Gordon misses the Geelong Melbourne game, we could see a solid return from the Blitz. Someone Jack didn't mention was Todd Goldstein, averaging 93.5. It has a 3-round average of 108.3.
I technically did. With the forward ruck DPP, I said with Cameron, Goldie and Jackson, but I didn't go massively into it.
Yep. So the ruck stocks are low at the Roos. And this veteran still has scores in him, which we've seen. A few tough games coming up, but you don't doubt the Todd, do you, Jack? You
Every game is a tough one for North Melbourne.
Yeah. Jack did mention this guy, Rob, 102.4 with a 3-round average of 116. Has found a little bit of form, as Jack said, 175. That's boosted all of his averages significantly. The thing that interests me, though, has one of the softest draws for the run home. I think there might be 1 or 2 hard games, but the rest are pretty soft. So can the Ginge stay hot? We will find
The
out.
ginge.
And someone that Jack did not mention, Shrek Darcy, averages 101 at the moment with a 3-run average of 97. Shrek has seemed to have a very inconsistent season this year, and with a toughish draw for the run home, he would be a major risk, especially with Lloyd Meek dominating and a big chance to return. But this is a bloke that last year pumped out back-to-back 190s, and one of them, Jack, was against Carlton, who he plays this week. So Shrek Darcy could be someone to finish with on the run home. Last year, his run home was absolutely nuts. So it all just depends on injuries there. And that's all of our ruck options. So Jack, will move into our last discussion point, which is the second half of the year smokies. These are people that aren't 100% dominating at the moment, or someone who have very low ownership and look like they're starting to pick up some pace. So, Jack, who are your second half smokies?
So I've put a couple in each position, I guess you can say.
Yep.
My first is Mason Redman, has a 3-round average of 118. He seems to be the best bomber defender at the moment, and he seems to be the light that is sparking their attacks. He showed a few massive scores recently, including the 144 against the Tigers at Dreamtime at the G, where he also got suspended the donkey. But he's someone who has been killing it for the Bombers. My last defender is Nick Vlostian, averaging 99.5. He's been very consistent. He's had 2 poor weeks. He could be a cheaper pod defender. He's getting a lot of intercept marks, and his ball use has been very good in starting Richmond attacks. So I feel like he's could be a cheeky pod to put up your rank. My 2 mids, starting off with a bloke I've been talking about all year, really, Ollie Wines. He's averaging 104.8, and he has been flying under the radar in the midfield. But like I've been saying every week, this man always goes huge in the second half. And we've seen the last few weeks he's gotten 120 plus both weeks. He's definitely a massive smoky mid choice if you can't or you don't want to go one of the big dogs that everyone has.
Yep.
My other midfielder is someone you spoke about a little bit, Brad Crouch. St. Ball Magnet has had an amazingly consistent season in the midfield. He's averaging 105.5, and he's only had 2 scores under 95. Another one who I feel like under the radar a little bit with his price and with all the big dogs, he could be a good mid option for your M8.
Yep. Just quickly on that, Jack Steele is a test to play this week. So, do you think he can keep that up?
Well, like I said, he's only had 2 scores under 95 for the season, and one was this week without him. So his performances haven't dropped.
Yep, fair.
With Jack Steele in there.
Yep.
My one ruck choice I've got, just spoke about him, Mark Blitzarves, 98.2 with a 3-round average of 100. He's a fantastic choice. He's a defensive ruck option. So if you need that cheap defender as well, you could go him in there, but also chuck him in the ruck with all the ruck problems. So he has a bit of flexibility there with him as well.
Yep.
I feel like a great smoky to look at. And my last one, we spoke about him, Harry Himmelberg, with the position change. He's been very consistent and very good.
Yep.
Could be a sneaky forward option, depending on what Mark McVeigh does with him in the future. And I think a few might jump on him this week.
Yep, awesome. So the ones I went with, they're mainly midfielders. But one of them is a mid defender, so we'll get to him in a second. So first one, I've got Sam Walsh. As I said at the very start, he's someone I'm looking to get in. He's in 10% of teams at the moment, average 113. He has a good run home, and that's just looking at his averages against the teams that he has for the rest of the year. He averages very well against them. It has the potential to go 120 plus on the run home. At the back half of last year, he popped out scores of 131, 138, 158, 193 against the Pies, and 141. So that was at the back half of last year. So could go absolutely bananas there. Jack did speak about this guy, Ollie Wines, 4.9% of teams, averages 104. Not a great season for Wines at this stage, but last year it was about this time when he went absolutely nuts. Can he strike again? He popped out scores of 144, 154, and 161. Those were his high games, but there was a lot of 110 pluses as well. So if he can go back to back with these second half of the seasons, could be a great pickup. Someone that we've looked over is Cam Guthrie, 1.8% of teams. Only averages 98.5 at the moment, but 114 over the last three. He seems to be finding some form, and he has a softish run home, so we could see, possibly some scores that he had at the start of last season. A few of those scores from the start of last season was 124, 163, 144, 132, and 136. If he can replicate that at 1.8%, you will be jumping ranks big time. Another one, Zach Merritt, 7.4% of teams, average 103. Has the potential to go 120 plus from here on out. A soft run and went big at the end of last season as well. You can sort of see a theme with the people I've selected at the moment. It's those that have, known to be a bit quieter in the first half, and then they hit their strides after the buys. Scores of 147, 143, and 168 at the end of last season. You can basically put him in for 100 plus most weeks. Another one, Jack, you'll be pretty happy with this. I've gone with your mob. Dion Prestia in 0.5% of teams right now. Not even 1%, 0.5. Averaging 95 at the moment, but 105 over the last five. The human meatball, when fit, which is hardly ever, is a great Supercoach scorer. A few tough games, but it looks like Richmond will be pushing for that top 8 and pushing for finals. So if fit, Dion Prestia could go big. So he's my smoky. Next is that mid defender I was talking about, and that's Hamish's brother Angus Brayshaw. He's in 7.2%.
Wait, Hamish's brother? Not Hamish's brother.
7.2% of teams, averaging 98. An average of 118 over the last three. Has found a new halfback role and is scoring some serious points. A tough run home for the D's, but that could actually help him if the ball's down there a bit more. And Brayshaw is known for a second half of the season dash, but that was in 2018, so that was 4 years ago. So I'm pretty sure he was playing a similar role then as well. So if he keeps his
I was
role,
going to say, isn't that when he almost won the Brownlow?
Yep. So he could go absolutely large. And the last one is his teammate, Christian Petrarca. He's in 32.7% of teams, average 106 at the moment, but that's because there's been a few massive scores. But he only averages 74 over the last three games, has underperformed massively this year, but we only need to look at the second half of last year. 123, 173, 125, 148, 111, and 126 was a few of his scores. But the D's are down on confidence, so let's see how it goes. But if there's a player that's going to lift for the D's, it's probably this guy. So those are our second half of your smokies. That's our discussion points done, which means that's the podcast done. Jack, do you have anything to add quickly, or should I just sign it off?
Yeah, no, I got nothing.
Alrighty, so that'll do us for tonight's podcast. Was there anyone that we missed? Maybe in your team or someone you want to trade in? Let us know. Let us know what your trades are, what rank you are. We want to know. You can let us know on Twitter or on YouTube in the YouTube comments section. How did you like the new structure? And do you want the Breakevens to return? Let us know, as I said, on Twitter, on YouTube. Thank you all again for your support and for listening and watching on Apple Podcast and YouTube. You can find us on Twitter at Breakevens Pod and on YouTube. Just search the Breakevens and you'll find us there. So that's it. So good luck to everyone for round 15. And on that note, as always, it's bye for now.
See ya.